Howdy Smyth Ute builders, Hesty here at Hesterman Motor Works. Today's video is on options for license plate lighting. It's a minor detail on the kits, but it can cause some pain in the butt and extra time. This applies to Beetles, Jettas, Audis, the Jeep. The Jeep is a big one. The Subaru, I'm not sure on the Jetta, I'm not sure about the Charger, but 90% sure that it applies there too. So we've got a Mark IV Jetta here that I'm just wrapping up, and I happen to have some of these. I've got 3 different cars in work right now, so this is a good time to cover some of these different options and different ways to do it and the different costs associated. I already have my favorite one installed here, but first off, let's talk about the lights that come with the kit, and then I'll tell you, as I drop everything, then I'll tell you why I don't really like this option. My tastes and what I like and don't like doesn't necessarily apply to everybody, so we'll cover this, and it may be a great option for some of you. So it's a pretty simple little bolt LED, so you can see there's a little LED there. Really simple. Red is positive and black is negative, right? So you drill a couple holes, you wheel that guy off, you stick that wire through the hole that you drilled, feed that wire through your license plate, so it'll look like that. Put that through the hole and then put the nut back on it. Then you crimp on your fittings to the factory wires. And that part is really simple. The actual wiring is very simple. Most of these cars have 2 leads because they came with 2 license plate lights. So 1 to each. Pretty simple. Ground and positive. They're LEDs, low draw. They work great. Then as you tighten them up, you got to look at what angle that LED is at, because obviously you don't want it turned out like that, right? You need it illuminating your license plate. Okay, these work pretty well. My complaint about them is I tend to change the license plate a lot. I usually drive the car a little bit before I get it painted, so I got to put the license plate on. And then I'm getting ready for paint, or I'm doing some body work, so I got to take the license plate off. And then I decide, oh, I'm going to get a custom plate, or I sell the car and then I take the plate. So every time you take that plate on and off, you're cutting those wires so that you can feed it through the license plate. That's my major complaint about these. Other than that, there's nothing wrong with them. They work, they satisfy every state I'm aware of and federally what you need for license plate illumination. And by the way, I have gotten pulled over for not having license plate illumination. That was in California. It hasn't happened to me here in Florida. They're a little bit easier on things like that. But it is something you gotta consider, and it is a requirement. So you do wanna make sure you have license plate illumination. All right, so that's how the kit goes. Now there's another option that you can use these lights, and instead of routing it through the license plate, simply drill the hole above the license plate so that the light sits up here. So that way you don't have to undo that wire every time you put the license plate on and off. So that would alleviate my major complaint about these particular lights. The problem I run into is this area that we have on Beetles, Jettas, Golfs, the Audis, I think the Subaru also has a very similar roll pan, is barely the size of the license plate. So there isn't a whole lot of room above the license plate unless you have that license plate hanging down a little bit. And that kind of throws off the lines a little bit. So not being super picky, but I don't really care for that option. But that's how you run the factory ones. It's actually pretty simple once you understand how it goes, and you can feed that bolt through a standard license plate frame if you want to dress up your license plate a little bit with a nice frame on it. One thing I will caution you about license plate frames, again, because of the limited space here, I would suggest you opt for the show more plate ones, the very narrow ones. The big fancy ones that maybe they have diamond plate on them or barbed wire or whatever you're into, you run out of room and they don't fit in there well. So be careful if you go buy a license plate frame to mount in there. So here's another simple option, is a traditional license plate light. You can get these on Amazon, of course. You can get them at AutoZone, you know, any of the Napa, any of those car part stores. You can get them in LED or incandescent. I particularly like LEDs. They tend to be a little more reliable. You can get them in chrome like this one, or you can paint it black, or you can get them in black. You can get them in metal. You can get them in plastic. Tons of ways to do it. Again, simple 2-wire, one to positive, one to negative, and you're done, right? You drill 3 holes, one for the wires to run through, and then 2 for your screws. Route the wires up through your hole and in, put your 2 screws in it, and then that illuminates your license plate. I personally don't care for this option because you only get illumination of the license plate about here, pretty much between the bolts. Right, it's fairly limited because you're kind of close. These are really designed to sit off the side like this and have one on each side. You could mount them on the sides like that, get 2 of them. That's really how these were designed to go. If you look at any modern pickups, that's how they are on modern pickups. That's not a bad option, but then it's kind of tricky getting your license plate and license plate frame in behind them when they're mounted here. Works fine. It's not quite there. So I don't have anything against them, but I generally don't go that option. I use this option on a few cars. I like these little mini LEDs. It's a little tiny LED strip. I believe it's 9 inches long. You can daisy chain them, or if you're just gonna do one, you just snip off one end of the wires and put a dab of silicone there to waterproof it, and then positive and negative, no big deal. And you can just glue this thing on right here, and nobody will ever even see it until it illuminates. That's a pretty cool option. I like these. These are, I think they're $12.95 on Amazon. By the way, I will put the links in the description, and you'll be able to find all these things. They are available in red and white, so if you do order these, obviously for your license plate light, make sure you get the white one. I really like these lights. I found they're pretty good reliability. I've used them for brake lights, third brake lights up on the back of the cab, and a couple of other things also, and they're pretty inexpensive. They're so light that it's really easy to just run a little bead of adhesive and stick them wherever you want. Put a clamp on it while it cures, boom, you're done. Run the wiring, everything's golden. So the next option is a frame that actually has the LEDs built in. And that's what we have mounted here. This is from Radiance, and I've ordered them both on Amazon, and, oh, that may come out backward because I'm in selfie mode. Again, I'll put the link in below, both the Amazon and from the company. I found they're a little bit cheaper ordering them on Amazon, even though they get shipped right from the company. They come in black, and they come in chrome. Now the black ones tend to always be back ordered, so I always order a couple. But this is the same company, just whether it's black or chrome. And on this car, we wanted to go blacked out, so I'm going with the black one. If you look up underneath here, you can see the LEDs there. These guys run somewhere between 50 and 70 bucks, depending on who you order it from, and shipping and taxes and all that stuff. Again, simple 2-wire installation. These work great. I really like these. They look very clean. It dresses up your license plate. They fit the license plates well. I found that their dimensions are very good. With some of the cheaper license plate frames, you'll find that you actually have to punch the holes out in your license plate because the license plate frame holes are off just a little bit. But in general, I found these are very good. They have a nice conical seat, and they come with a 1/4-20 bolt that fits right in there and sits down nice and flush. Like you can see, these here are flush. So I put 4 1/4-20 riv nuts in, and that way I can bolt them on and off, and I'm not worrying about the fiberglass wearing out with a screw. Most of these options, you can just put a screw into the fiberglass and that'll be sufficient, but I prefer to put a riv nut in, and the fiberglass holds the riv nut pretty well. I haven't had any issues with that. So that's kind of, what are we on, option 4? So not a bad plan. All right, but lately I've had a couple people ask for backup cameras. And on the Beetle, that's a whole nother discussion about whether you want to do a backup camera or not. But here's a piece of advice I will throw out. I now build every car with the wire for a backup camera, whether I'm planning the backup camera or not. Because if you decide later that you do want a backup camera, or the next guy that buys the car wants a backup camera, getting that wire run through is a super pain in the rear. Doing it as you're building, I'm already working that wiring loom, so it's very simple. So they're $8 on Amazon for the generic cable. So I just run one, leave it tucked up underneath, and that way later on you can drill a hole and pull it through if someone decides to do a backup camera later. Okay, I'm trying not to make this into a backup camera story because that could be a whole nother video. I have done one, a bullet style with a hole right here, run the wire inside the tailgate, drilling a hole through the hinge and routing it out that way. That looks pretty clean, except that it's visible here. It's kind of nice to put one up under here. Now, you may have a conflict though, depending on what you've done for lights. If you've run this light, you may run out of room for the camera, or it may block the light. Same for this option if you mounted it above, right? If it's on the sides, no problem. But how about this from Alpine? This runs $50. I get them from Crutchfield, which is my favorite stereo place online. Again, links will be down in the description. And it has a cutout already for a camera. So of course they offer a camera that will bolt cleanly right in there. Right, and there's your backup camera. And this is slightly larger profile than the other LED lit. You can see it's just a little bit thicker, but not much. This one works out really clean. And I put this on the Jeep. The Jeep is kind of a problem because these lights stick out of the bumper and they're prone to getting bumped and knocked, right? Because the tailgate is recessed a little bit, the bumper comes out a little bit further. So if someone's leaning against the bumper or somebody walks by, they can catch those lights and break them or bend them off or something. So I like this option because of that nice smooth contour there. It blends in. Having this stick out the back of the truck doesn't look bad. So I really like this on the Jeep, and I also like these on the Jettas and Beetles if you're gonna put a backup camera. Fits much the same, right? With the LED lights already built in it, $50, pretty easy. And I don't know for sure, but I would venture a guess that you could fit other brands of backup cameras in there besides having to buy the $100 Alpine one. I do like Alpine in general as a company, but backup cameras can get expensive. So anyway, there's an option. So this is kind of my new favorite, and I tend to put this one on cars now so that later on a backup camera could easily be added. So again, simple 2-wire for the light. It runs those 2 LEDs. Pretty easy. I put in 4 1/4-20s. Again, this comes with 1/4-20 bolts that fit there, so I put the riv nuts in, mount that sucker, and now you've got your camera and your license plate lighting handled. So there you have my thoughts on license plate lights. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your support. You all have a good day. Take care of each other.